right, good morning, everyone. It is 10:06 a.m. On October 1st, 2024. And I will call the Personnel Commission meeting of the Berkeley Unified School District to order. We don't have anyone in the boardroom audience, but we do have people who have joined us remotely, and that's great. I'm stalling a little bit because we have Commissioner Goldstein and myself, but we don't yet have Vice Chairperson Carter, who indicated he would be a few minutes late. So why don't we at least do the roll call, and we can establish a quorum. Would you take care of that, Madam Secretary, please?
Sure. Chairperson Roeder,
Here.
Commissioner Goldstein.
Present.
And as I mentioned, Vice Chairperson Carter is on his way. Let me just, before we have our public comment period, I just want to acknowledge something that I saw today, which is that tomorrow, October 2nd, is National Custodian Day. And even though I'm a day early, I don't think it's ever too early to thank our marvelous custodial staff here at BUSD. They are the ones who make our school sites and our facilities ready to learn and work. So we appreciate all of you and thank all of you for your hard work. And as I was recognizing the custodians, Vice Chairperson Carter has sat down. And so if the minutes could reflect that Vice Chairperson Carter is in attendance, and we will go ahead and ask for public comments at this point. Again, I don't see anybody in the room, but there are people on Zoom. Let me, what I'm supposed to do here, let's see. Okay, I see Maintenance 1, M1 has their hand up. So if Maintenance 1 could go ahead, identify yourself, and please make your public comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you fine.
Yes, hi. Thank you. My name's Roderick Carraway, lead maintenance engineer in the maintenance department. And my public comment is a matter of concern. I've stated this previously on the June 26th meeting about the classification study proceeding. I looked it over last night. The last contact I had with the company, EH&A, was getting a draft of my job description back in July of 2023. I just don't feel that it was done properly. I didn't have no response or the classification study. My job wasn't included in the, they took one job from the maintenance department and used it as a benchmark job. And it's our entry-level position. And I've been here a number of years, and this is the 4th or 5th study I've been through. And it's just was done. It just doesn't feel like it's been completed to me. So I don't understand how the Personnel Commission can submit this to the board as on the recommendation of the executive director to be implemented without being completed. Like I said, I never got any input back from the draft. The last contact I had with EH&A was in July of 2023, sir. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you very much for your comment. Let's see if there's any other hands up. I don't see any hands up. Sarah, do you see anyone? Okay, then we will close. Oh, Denise Diggs Ray, just under the wire. Go ahead, Ms. Diggs Ray, please.
Thank you. I am concerned because there was information that was supposed to be shared. This is in regards to the surveys that Charlie sent out to employees. I thought they were going to be brought back either to the committee or shared with the PC. Haven't heard anything, and I was on the PC committee. I'm sorry, on the comp class committee, and I was hoping that we would be more open to sharing information, and especially with employees. That hasn't happened, and that's very disappointing. I'm hoping still, even though the PC wants to do what they want to do, that we will be able to see the surveys to see how many people agreed with it, disagreed with it, what kind of issues that were mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diggs Ray, for your comment. Now I don't see any other hands up, so we will go ahead and close the public comment period and move to the approval and adoption of the agenda. Any modifications? If not, can I have a motion to approve and adopt the agenda, please?
I'll motion that we approve and adopt this agenda as it is.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. I agree. And the approval, the agenda is approved and adopted as submitted. Now we're on to our basically one and only but important conference item, which is the classification and compensation study, which is and the executive director or interim executive director's background and recommendation is attached as attachment A, as well as a draft of a referral document that would be sent to the Board of Education and to the district administration if it is passed. In terms of process, it sort of seems to me this is in the nature of a legislative markup where we have a draft. As far as the draft is concerned, we try to implement the wishes of the Personnel Commission at its last meeting, which is that Aaron submitted to me an initial draft. I made a few revisions to the initial draft, and Commissioner Goldstein graciously volunteered and did include a recommendation with respect and language with respect to a philosophy, a compensation philosophy that the Board of Education could adopt. And then finally, at the end, Vice Chairperson Carter's suggestion of having the compensation and classification be on an ongoing basis, and perhaps with an in-house employee in the Personnel Commission to lead that effort on an ongoing basis, is also included as the last paragraph. So I thought that maybe we would start out with Erin, in case she has any sort of last minute corrections or changes or suggestions, comments to make. I think we do want to hear from our stakeholders who are present remotely. So we'll provide, I think, some time for them to go ahead and make their comments. Of course, they've made it would be wonderful if the comments, I can't control what the comments are going to be, but it'd be wonderful if the comments could concentrate on attachment A and any suggestions that they might have with respect to attachment A. We've heard a lot about the concerns of many of the stakeholders with respect to this study, and I think we're well aware of those concerns. But of course, they can be repeated. And then finally, I think we will then go to our commissioners to make any revisions they might have. If we can agree on some revisions by consensus, that's great. And if there is no consensus, then we'll have to take a vote and then we'll on each item, and then we'll take a vote on the whole thing at the end. Does that seem like an adequate process to my fellow commissioners?
It does.
Okay, great. So that's how we will start. Erin, could you go ahead and make your presentation?
Well, I do have one correction I wanted to make, and that was in the first paragraph. So after I think it's the second sentence where it mentions the district employs around 620 classified staff organized into 3 units. I wanted to change the word confidential to classified. Confidentials under the unrepresented staff.
So how would that read? That would read, would it read classified and then classified confidential and management and unrepresented staff?
No, so it would just be classified and then classified management and then unrepresented staff.
And so the confidential would be included in the unrepresented.
That's right.
So classified. And just to make sure, we're reading from, I think the wording is exactly the same, but I'm looking at, I think they're both called attachment A, but I'm looking at the second part of attachment A, which is not the background and executive director's recommendation, but rather the draft letter to the Board of Education. But in this respect, they're the same. Okay, anything else, Erin?
That's all I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you much. So why don't I go ahead now and open it up to the participants who are on Zoom to make comments that they would like to make. We have a fair amount of time this morning, but not unlimited time, so please take that into consideration. Thank you. If you have a comment to make, please raise your hand. Your virtual hand. All right. Oh.
There's one.
There is one. And where is that? Denise. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Ms. Diggs-Ray, please begin.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand what you had said. You were making a correction in regards to, and I'm not sure what page you're on. There's 4 pages here. You were, instead of, you wanted to make a draft?
Well, no, not exactly. On the agenda, as you say, there are 4 pages. So the first page is just the agenda itself. The next page, which up on the top right-hand corner says attachment A, that says agenda item 5A, and that is the background and the executive director's recommendation. What I think we're going to be concentrating on and looking at is it also says attachment A, but on this it has office, it's on letterhead. It says Office of the Personnel Commission. And so on that, at the very first paragraph, the second sentence begins, currently, the district employs around 620 classified staff organized into 3 units. And you'll see that initially it said confidential, classified management, and unrepresented staff. And, you know, that's a typo. Unfortunately, if you take that literally, that doesn't include all the BCCE represented employees. So Aaron's suggestion was instead of that first word confidential, to instead say classified, 3 units, classified, comma, which would include the represented BCCE staff, classified management, and unrepresented staff. That's all. And in terms of talking about the drafts, this is, at this point, a draft. And that's what we're working off of. I hope, I know I was kind of lengthy there, but I hope I clarified that for you, Ms. Diggs-Ray.
Yes, I had understood what Aaron was saying, but I missed your part. So what you're saying is that this whole agenda is the background, all of this is a draft. You guys, the PC has not approved this. You're just reviewing it as a draft, correct?
Correct. Correct. Our goal, I would say, or at least my goal, our goal is that once we have gone through this basically with a fine-tooth comb and that it reflects our thinking, then we will refer this. It won't be a draft anymore. It'll be finalized and the changes will be made, and then it will be sent to the Board of Education along with the study itself for their action.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Frank Hernandez, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I came in a little bit late and I'm scrambling here, but
Sure.
so you're saying this attachment A is currently a draft and we're going over this to discuss what should be sent to the board? Is that correct or no?
Yes.
Okay. I also came in late, so I didn't hear some stuff at the very beginning. So I'm trying to read through this, and I'll be honest, I just started reading it a couple minutes ago. One of the things I wanted to bring up, I'm not sure if it's clear, or at least it doesn't look like it's clear by what I'm reading, is that BCCE has contract language, and I'm not sure, it doesn't look like that's being said in here, that in our contract, BCCE, BUSC contract, 6.114 is, we have language in there that says that this will not be implemented. This is for BCCE, the classic comp, or it says no changes will be implemented before, I'm sorry, I'll just read it. Before implementation of any proposed changes to class specifications, BCCE shall be notified in writing such changes and given the opportunity to bargain the impact of these changes, including but not limited to the appropriate range for the positions. And I'm saying this because I don't see it's clear that we it's not a recommendation from the PC that this is being sent to the board and we need to negotiate over it. It's actually our contract language that says that we shall negotiate over this before its implementation, which would be my understanding before it's sent to the board. So I just wanted the language to kind of say that it's not really, I understand it's coming from the PC, but we have language that says that we shall negotiate the changes.
Right, just to address that one item there, and we're going to go over this in more detail, but the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, I guess it's the second sentence after the first long sentence. It says, however, BCCE has raised concerns regarding the recommendations for its members outlined in the report for Phase 1 and Phase 2. The Personnel Commission advises that the relevant BCCE job descriptions be brought forward to the district for negotiations. So we have at least attempted to, I think, address the concern, Frank, that you just raised. Our intention is that we are referring these job descriptions for negotiations. I think we say that yet again at another point. I'm not finding it right this second. But I think that covers, I think it's, the goal is that that covers your concern. Uh, Did you have anything else you wanted to say about this, Frank? I see your hand is still up.
Yeah, I muted, I'm sorry, I muted myself and I couldn't unmute, so I had to raise my hand.
All right.
Yeah, I saw that and that's what I was, that's why I was saying that it's actually what the contract language is, says. So I thought if this is gonna be a draft, it should be clear that, that you're going by the contract language.
I see. Okay. I think I at least do understand your concern, and that's something I've made a note that we can talk about, the commissioners can talk about when we get to that paragraph.
Thank you.
Mildred Sherritt, your hand is up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just wanted to state, and just for clarity purposes, because I know last week I had asked the question that what are the recommendations for that is going to the board? And then I heard you state this morning that the goal is to hopefully finalize the job descriptions and the compensation to send forth to the board. So you want to send, you want to
No.
finalize, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I can. Sorry I interrupted you, but that's not our intention.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Can you clarify for me, please, sir?
Yes, our intention is not, specifically not to provide any recommendations to the Board of Education regarding job descriptions for BCCE represented employees. Our goal here, and I think what we have stated, is to refer the EH&A study to the Board of Education for negotiations with BCCE, both on the job descriptions themselves and on the compensation, but we are specifically not making any recommendation with respect to the BCCE phases of the study.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Commissioner Roder. I guess my concern was just still trying to really understand the process in a whole. Because during the whole process, it was constantly being said to us, and I didn't know that we were dividing the process, right? Because the process and is the process. And if we were going to divide the process, then I guess BCCE could have had their own study, and then the other units could have had their own study. So throughout the whole time, we were told that the unions were going to negotiate with the district prior to anything going to the board. The fact that that never happened and something else is being done is just concerning. And that was just one of the things that we've been stating this whole time. It's just like, okay, what is the process? Things have just been mixed up and different things have just been stated. So again, now here we are. We heard what the consultant said, and then we're here. But not one time have we met with the district, but it's just I see now that just because of the concerns that BCC have raised, okay, we're gonna separate BCCE, we're gonna move everybody else forward just because they may agree, because they've had the opportunity to do whatever they were doing behind, closed doors or whatever, but we're gonna separate BCCE, even though we were all supposed to be going through this process at the same time. I'm just letting you know, Commissioner Roder, it's just very concerning, this whole process, that I have never seen anything like this happen. So I will leave it at like that. You guys are gonna do what you're gonna do, but it's very concerning, sir. Because
Well,
I know that this is not the process, the way that this is being done.
well,
Thank you.
you can see in another spot in this referral, it also says the Personnel Commission requests that the Board of Education and district administration study the essential functions, main duties, and compensation indicated in the study and direct staff to negotiate its impacts and terms with the employee organizations as appropriate. So our, again, intention is that once this goes to the district formally, then that begins. That's not the end of the process. That's the beginning of the process of negotiation with the unions. Let's see. Do we have any other hands up? Oh, I think Denise Diggs Ray wanted to make an additional comment.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to follow where you are on this. So can we say that page 2 or 3 or 4 so I can keep up as to where you're reading from? Because it doesn't have page numbers, which is very confusing. And I've asked PC to please put page numbers on your documents to make it easy for all to follow. So where were you just reading from, Commissioner?
I was just reading from page 3.
Okay.
The last paragraph, the paragraph that begins by referring the classification and compensation study. So that paragraph, the second sentence of that paragraph is what I was just reading from.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Looks like it's now time. We'll cut off the discussion portion by the stakeholders and now move on to a, I think, detailed discussion portion for the commissioners so that we can move through this. I do have a few suggested changes, comments, et cetera, but I think I'll defer to my co-commissioners first. Whoever wants to start, and I think we should try to do this kind of, you can certainly make general comments, of course, but try to do this sort of sentence, identify the sentences that you want changed and how you want them changed. Yes, Commissioner Goldstein, please.
So could I suggest, in that same vein, if we're going to do a line by line markup, that actually, we all line by line kind of contribute?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. So how about if can we do it paragraph by paragraph? Maybe that'll be a little bit easier. Okay, so changes, I have a couple, but changes to paragraph 1, first paragraph, the one that begins the Personnel Commission of the Berkeley Unified School District.
And these are changes beyond the correction that we just talked about.
Yes,
Right.
well, let's just make a consensus determination. Do all of us agree on Aaron's suggested change?
Mhm.
I certainly think it's appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, so by consensus, and I guess this is being recorded, so Sarah, you'll have what we decide to do pretty well documented, and you all will take notes as to what we want to do. Okay, so that's, does anyone have any other changes to suggest for paragraph 1?
Not from-
I have
any.
one. I have one.
I don't have any.
You don't.
I do not.
No, I have one, and I think this is true, that I think it was the Berkeley Unified School District that hired EHNA. The Personnel Commission and then Executive Director Castillo, of course, had input, and but it says now the Personnel Commission of the school district hired. I think we should delete the words Personnel Commission of the.
No, I think the correct structure is we, as a PC, hired EHNA because they are under our purview. The class and comp study falls under the PC, not under the district. So although they paid for it, that purview is still ours, and they are technically our independent contractor, which is why we are going through this process to approve their work. If they weren't our contractor, it would fall directly under the district. The only part that falls into the district is the fact that they're writing the check, but the
They
actual.
also signed the contract.
Because they're obligated to pay. But ultimately, the process falls under the PC commission, which is why the suggestion of having an in-house employee under the PC and not the district makes sense moving forward. But technically, they were our independent contractors.
Well, although I don't entirely agree with you on that front, I don't think I don't feel that it's significant enough. And I understand your point, and it also is accurate that this study was under the purview of the Personnel Commission. So I don't have a problem. Yes, Commissioner Goldstein.
Could I recommend then that for that first sentence, the language be that the Personnel Commission of BUSD recommended and BUSD engaged EHA? Because that's what happened.
Is that acceptable?
Can you rephrase?
Sure. That the Personnel Commission recommended and BUSD engaged, i.e. signed the contract, paid for the work, EHA. I think those are the verbs that accurately describe what happened here. And the reason for that, Commissioner Carter, is we paid in excess of $200,000 for that study. We don't have that money in our budget. We didn't pay that, the district did.
I think it's worded perfectly. I don't think I have a problem with making the adjustments the way you recommend it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes.
Sure. The Personnel Commission of the BUSD recommended and BUSD engaged. So we're getting rid of hired.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other changes to paragraph 1. Okay, we'll move on to paragraph 2. I did not have any suggested changes to paragraph 2. Did
If you
anyone?
would give me a minute just to reread.
Of course, of course.
I'm okay with paragraph 2.
No changes.
No changes.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I have one small change to paragraph 3, but let's see if anybody else has any suggestions for paragraph 3. The one that begins most recently, the Personnel Commission.
Give us a minute to,
Yes,
thank you.
it's a long paragraph.
Mhm. If I may, are we all read? Can we discuss? Okay. One thing I would like maybe inserted by reference into paragraph 3 is Sarah very kindly put together a timeline of, major milestone events in the course of this comp study. And she sent that out separately, I think, to commissioners, or was I the only one who got it? I know I requested it. Everybody has it. Okay. And I think it ought to be inserted, by reference, maybe there's, a little appendix or something, so that, when we say, met periodically or what have you, anybody who wants a specific idea. Have you seen this?
I've seen it.
All right. So I think it's important to insert that. The other thing I would recommend that we insert is when we talk about, when the different phases were presented, I think it would be useful to indicate, phase 1, all BCCE positions, phase 2, BCCE and Local 21, you know, something that just sort of gives an idea as which phases addressed which unions. And that phase 4 really is the compensation part of the study. You know, just something that, you know, we know this by heart, but the reading world doesn't.
Okay, let's take those one at a time. First, with the timeline. I don't know, Commissioner Carter, you've had a chance to at least scan the timeline.
I think insertion of the timeline is good. More information is better.
Okay, so that actually brings up sort of an interesting question that I had, sort of again, process-wise, in terms of what we're going to provide ultimately to the district administration and the Board of Education. So obviously, once it's approved, we're going to provide this referral, which is, you know, attachment A, pages 3 and 4. That's one thing. I'm assuming, and I don't want to assume anything, I'm assuming that we're going to attach also, as part of the referral, the study itself, so that they have the complete study. I mean, that makes sense.
Right.
Now I think, and I agree with Commissioner Carter, that it makes perfect sense to add, in addition, the timeline and attach that as well, so that the board and the administration can see that timeline. Is there anything else that we're thinking of including? No. Okay, and we can think of things as we go along if there's anything. Okay, so so we'll say, let's see. Well-
Actually, can I just go back and ask a question, clarifying question about the study? So the study had 4 phases and they reported out on those 4 phases. There were some follow-on documents that, some of which I think were included in the study, some of which I think came later. So like, for example, you know, the little chart that, you know, identified, you know, by, you could sort it a bunch of different ways, but, you know, by union or by, you know, whether they were over or above a median amount. I think this was included in phase 4. But I think some of the recommendations for each of the phases, including the document that you handed out at our last regular meeting, were not actually included in phases 1 through 4. Is that right? So, okay, so I don't know if you can see these.
That's our internal. That's our internal.
That's our
document.
internal. I
Yeah.
think that would be a useful thing to share.
And which one again?
So we developed some internal cheat sheets, I guess is what we're calling them. One each for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 that sort of summarized from the report what, you know, the report is recommending. And, you know, it talks about the EHA, it talks about the job class, the EHA finding, the EHA recommendation. And then there's a column for Personnel Commission opinion, which we, you know, I think have decided we're not giving an opinion so much as we're referring. So it is a quick and easy summary. And the reason I think this is a good and useful idea is our school board decks include a lot of stuff already. I highly doubt most school board members, maybe with the exception of 2 of them, would actually read through the study, you know, with any degree of fine tooth. So I think the summaries will be helpful to them. And I think that's something we should also include.
Let's discuss those one at a time.
Okay.
So, and that's different from that blue document that you had.
This one, it's entitled BUSD Phase 4 Wage Survey. And it was presented one way in the study. I think I have seen other sorts, you know, just ways it's been organized since, but this is in the study.
Right, so it was produced by EHA. Okay,
That's right.
well, let's
Right.
start with the timeline.
Okay.
So where in this paragraph shall we put the timeline, because we all agree that the timeline would be useful. Should we put it after where it says phases 3 and 4? We can put another parentheses and say something along the lines of, for reference, a timeline of events is attached. Just something simple like that,
Or just after the first sentence,
or after the first sentence.
right? Where we talk about, we did the study.
Either way, it's fine, as long as it says see attachment.
Okay,
Beginning and the end, there, it's gonna be in there.
okay, so how about at the end of the first sentence, we have we could be as simple as see attached timeline, okay?
I'm all right with that.
See attached timeline. Okay, sounds like we have consensus there. And then the next thing brought up was to sort of reference which segment of the employees each of these phases relates to. So that's okay with me. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Carter?
Yeah, I don't see an issue with relating, identifying the employees or the sections that they're related to.
Okay, so can we simply say where it says phase 1, can we say hyphen BCCE employees?
I'm all right with that.
Okay, and then it says phase 2, that's also BCCE.
Izzy, I think we have a suggestion.
Sure.
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
So phase 1, for example, phase 1 BCCE job descriptions.
Right. And then phase 2 is also BCCE job descriptions, right? So that'll be hyphen
Mhm.
BCCE job descriptions. Okay, now I get confused. So phases 3. So I think after phase 3, we want to put hyphen something.
So phase 3 would be local 21, confidential and unrep management.
Okay, well, I don't have room on my little piece of paper to say all that, but Sarah, you know what goes in there, and that'll again be phases 3 hyphen local 21, confidential, unrepresented, et cetera. Okay, and phase 4 is compensation.
That's right.
Should have printed this out double spaced. Okay, then I think the next one is the cheat sheets. So it strikes me that it's not really a cheat sheet, but that document that has the blue on it that you were showing that that I've seen
This
before.
one, yeah.
That's already part of, I don't think,
That's in phase 4.
I believe that doesn't need to be referenced specifically.
No, I think folks will find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as to the other cheat sheets,
Mhm.
respectfully, I think I disagree. I think that an internal document that the Personnel Commission generated, the staff generated, but we actually never used it. You may have referred to it, I'm sure, for informational purposes, and I referred to it too. But the way it was designed was as if we were going to fill in the last column of recommendations, and we decided not to go in that direction. I personally don't want to control the way the Board of Education or the administrative staff approaches how they're gonna organize this and have negotiations with the unions. And, that's going to be, I think, up to them. So even though I think it would be helpful, I personally don't think we should put it in. That's my 2 cents. So, Mr. Carter, you're the deciding vote here.
It's interesting because I actually have not referred to that document very often.
Mhm.
So I don't have
wanna
much
see it?
context.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to help me at this point.
No, just for
decide.
general format. I mean, it'll just kind of.
This part's already included.
Yeah, not the blue one.
Right, the
This is
charts.
the chart's already
Right.
included. So at first glance, I do like the format. So in my decision-making process, what's the pros and cons? What's the benefit factor for sending it? It seems like it would help help the school board with their decision-making process. And we want to put our lens, we want them to look at this with our lens. Although I have to repeat, I have not used this document. But considering it is generated by the PC Commission, I would tend to want it to include it because I want the school board to look at this process in the class and comp study through as much of our lens as we can possibly give them. And this is what our write-up is all about, to make sure they see it through our lens. So I think this is just an extension of it.
I think maybe to our chairman's comments, we need to make clear, this is a job aid, if you will. It's not part of the official study document. It's something the PC developed, for our own reference. And I think that's important. And I'm just going to trust, our school board, they're big people, they'll make the distinction. And, if they don't want to use it, they don't want to be influenced by it, they'll put it aside. But if they want a quick snapshot of, what seems to be on the table, I think it would be helpful.
And I'm going to defer to the wisdom of my 2 colleagues. And so that's fine with me. So shall we put something in parentheses, perhaps at the very end of this paragraph, just indicating that?
Actually, I'm thinking maybe it belongs in paragraph 4, where we talk about, we're referring the study,
Okay,
blah, blah, blah. And then at some point in paragraph 4, I realize we're not there yet, but we can
Okay.
also say, we are also referring 3 job aids, and we'll give them
or
titles.
attaching anyway.
Yeah, or attaching, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, let's talk about it in paragraph 4. I had one additional comment, and I don't know if this is important or not, and that's in the very first sentence where it says, most recently, the Personnel Commission completed a district-wide classification and compensation study. And here, Vice Chair Carter might end up disagreeing with me on this, but it seemed that it made it sound like we did the whole thing. And I kind of felt maybe we should say, most recently, the Personnel Commission, through its consultant, EHA, completed a district-wide classification study.
I think that's factually correct. Thank you. I'm fine with that.
Is that, I know you were getting some water, so I apologize for.
No problem. Just, I caught most of it, the details of your last statement.
It's that, it's the very first sentence of this paragraph 3 that we're working on, where it says, most recently, where my suggestion is, most recently, comma, the Personnel Commission, comma, through its consultant, EHA, comma, completed a district-wide classification and compensation study.
I think that's exactly accurate.
Okay, all right. It sounds like we're in agreement on that.
Mhm.
All right, now we're on paragraph 4, where we can talk about the cheat sheets. So let's see. Well, maybe I'll start on this one. I did have what is a somewhat substantive and a little bit unclear comment, which is, so right now it says the Personnel Commission is now referring the study's results to the Board of Education and recommends that the board approve the suggested recommendations, revised job descriptions and title changes for Local 21, and reclassifications for Local 21. If I understand our process correctly, reclassifications are within the purview of the Personnel Commission. Reclassifications are not handled by the school board. So I don't think, frankly, that we should be referring reclassifications to the school board. Now, we have not figured out what our process will be, and it's going to be complicated with respect to reclassifications. But I would suggest we delete the words "and reclassifications" from that parenthetical.
I agree.
I think that's a good catch.
Yeah.
think that's a good
Reclass
catch.
belongs to us.
Okay, very good. All right, so it would say revised job descriptions and title changes,
Mhm.
inserting the word "and." Okay, now, I did not have any additional suggestions on that paragraph. We have the cheat sheets to add, and there may be some other suggestions. And the one thing I did want to bring up as a placeholder is this might be the time to talk about Mr. Hernandez's comment about the contract and whether something needs to be said about that.
Mhm.
And I'm of two minds about that. I'm not sure.
I think this is the appropriate place for it.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, can we do the easy part, the cheat sheets?
Sure.
How do you want to, since you're our
Like,
cheat sheeter, and
right. Where would we put these?
yeah, where would
Um,
we put it?
Okay. I think after, give me a minute. I think actually at the end, where, we basically say it's the role of the board, to do, these various things about the job duties. And the PC believes the revised JDs can serve as a valuable guide for further discussion. Additionally, attached in the referral are 3 job aids, pertaining to phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, which summarize the EHNA recommendations.
Okay, I don't remember the specific job aids.
Here, why don't you
Is that right?
look?
There's 3. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how it's
they are 3
formatted.
separate files, and calling them, PC generated job aids or, something that makes very clear, it's something we put together as a job aid. It's not,
Okay.
it's part of the.
Yeah, I like the full statement, except the part that summarizes the summary. I think it is a job aid for the
Mhm.
summary. I don't know if it summarizes the whole summary. So,
I've been over it pretty closely and it's a pretty good summary, but you could say which, highlights key recommendations
That's
if you
good.
wanted,
that's good.
to kind of leave open, they should read for themselves.
Yeah,
Okay, so would it start, so we're putting it at the end.
Right.
Is it a parenthetical?
No,
Like,
I make
no?
a sentence.
okay,
Isn't-
so starts with attached?
Additionally,
Oh,
all
addition.
right, let's think about this. Hang on. Valuable discussion and evaluation of the parties. Additionally, attached are 3 PC generated job aids, comma, each corresponding to a different phase, parens 1 through 3, that provide a summary of key recommendations from the study. Let's see if that makes sense.
That's fine with me, assuming, well, it's on the record, so Sarah will be able to pick it up from the recording. Are you comfortable with that, Sarah? Okay, all right. All right, so now we want to, I think, address Mr. Hernandez's comment about the contract.
Are you looking for?
Well, I just
Comments?
don't, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what more we want to say or can say. Personnel Commission advises that the relevant BCC job descriptions be brought forward to the district for, I mean, we could simply say for negotiations in accordance with its collective bargaining agreement.
I think the reference has to acknowledge, right, that we have multiple unions. I don't think it would be appropriate to, either we are mentioning specific contracts, for both unions involved, or we are just mentioning broadly, CBA provisions.
I think the wording should sound something like this, coming after the district, coming after the job descriptions be brought forward to the district for negotiations. It is understood that these are not final and are expected to be negotiated prior to implementation.
Or just pursuant to existing CBAs. We sort of understand, that meet and confer, on these will be part of your process.
Actually, like Commissioner Carter's
I've-
suggestion, but
Mhm.
we could add pursuant
Pursuant
to
to the
collective
contract.
bargaining. But the fact that we're saying, yeah, you gotta negotiate this
Before
Alright, that's
this.
fine.
becomes-
before implementation.
Because I think that's
Right.
one of the biggest concerns with BCCE is that they feel that once we approve this or send it on, that it hits the board and it's gonna skip the district negotiation.
I think the board knows they have to meet and confer. but-
We.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can acknowledge.
I think it's implied, and that's how we phrased it here, but I think making it explicit
I'm all right.
is
Yeah.
a real good idea.
right.
So,
Speak it out. So where do we?
Commissioner Carter,
Add that?
your language again.
I don't know if I can repeat it. That's just that, okay, so I would put it after. The Personnel Commission advises that the relevant BCCE job descriptions be brought forward to the district for negotiations. It is understood that no,
Or maybe pursuant to, is that what we want to
no,
say?
it is understood that that these are recommendations and the job descriptions are to be negotiated pursuant to current
Agreements.
current
CBA.
CBA agreements. Thank you.
Yeah, the
Current
only
CBA
thing I
agreements.
would disagree with is with your use of the word recommendations, because actually with respect to BCC, we're not making a recommendation.
Right.
I mean, these are,
Okay,
I mean, it is
okay.
true, it's EH&A recommendations, we could say that, but that may, it is understood. I mean, can't we just say something along the lines of it is understood that any changes or modifications to job descriptions and compensation must be negotiated prior to implementation in accordance with relevant collective bargaining agreements or something along those lines.
That's a little clearer. I like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
is that more or less
yeah.
okay with you, Heidi?
I'm all right.
You guys have been writing a lot faster than I have.
I know, so far I've got the words, it is understood,
Yeah, right. No, I've got a little more.
and I've run out of room already.
It is understood that any changes or modifications to job descriptions or compensation must be negotiated pursuant to the enforced CBAs.
Prior to implementation.
Prior to implementation,
Prior, right.
Prior to implementation.
right. Well, I didn't write all that down, but I know Sarah's
I
got
did
it.
also. I think I've got it. Sarah, do you want me to read it one more time or y'all? Should I?
I think we're good. It's in the recording.
All right, they want to hear it one more time. Okay, so what we are doing is adding, after the sentence that reads, the Personnel Commission advises that the relevant BCC job descriptions be brought forward to the district for negotiations. Then we're going to add a sentence. It is understood that any changes or modification to job descriptions or compensation must be negotiated pursuant to the enforced CBAs prior to implementation.
Good. Good,
Okay.
okay. I think that's all we had on paragraph 4. Now paragraph 5, which is the last paragraph at the bottom of page 3. I just had the smallest of small suggestions. Well, okay, my suggestion is changing the first preposition, and instead of by referring, it would be in referring.
I had that problem too. Right, okay. Okay.
We all agree with that? Okay, I didn't have any other changes to it.
I have none.
Me neither.
Okay, well, I'm gonna pause for half a second and say thank you to Aaron. I don't know if Sarah or Brian were involved in this process, but your very first draft was excellent. You really caught all of the relevant and disparate views and ideas that we all had at the last meeting, and you captured it really well on this document. So I really appreciate your effort, and you did it so fast. You turned it around, I think, in 48 hours.
You're welcome.
Now we're turning the page to page 4. And here I think begins, if I following it correctly, what Commissioner Goldstein added to, and I thought this was excellent too. And to tell you the truth, I have no changes whatsoever, but we can talk about it. So how about this next paragraph? What is this? Paragraph 6, I think, where it says the Personnel Commission consistently observes. And
Right. Do we need a minute to read it?
Yeah, give me a minute. That paragraph reads well. Reads well.
Thank you.
yes, yes. Very well. So no changes to paragraph, what I think is 6. Now paragraph 7 that begins because the data. Give you all a chance to read it again.
I have no problem with
No, I think it's
the.
very well said. I actually learned some things in reading these 2 paragraphs.
Good.
All right, let's see the 7. I think it's paragraph 8 that starts a compensation philosophy can help BUSD.
Vice Chair Carter, are you pondering or?
It reads well. I like the way you have it organized. You compliment them, you tell them what needs to be done, and then you give them for the lack of a better description, a roadmap. of how you
I've
get
done
there.
this a few times before.
I
Yeah.
can see.
So,
That's why I'm smiling. I can see it's very well laid out.
on this paragraph, at the very last sentence, I did think maybe we ought to add one or two concepts,
Mhm.
which is, it says the philosophy is usually developed by the Human Resources Department in collaboration with the executive team. I think that's right, but I don't think that's the end of it. In other words, it kind of starts there, but then it, and I'm not, and this is not the right order necessarily, but it would need to be adopted, I'm assuming, by the school board, as a policy or philosophy or whatever. It should be a transparent process. And you mentioned transparency someplace else in here, but in this instance, should be a transparent process that also allows for comment and input from the unions, from employees, from the public, from anybody. And I think we should say that, something along those lines, that idea in here.
I don't object. One of the things I struggled with was the original assignment was give 2 paragraphs, right? So, I had to draw a line at how much process do I talk about here? So all those things are true and we could add them.
So let's see. So the philosophy is, I'm reading from the last paragraph, the last sentence of that paragraph. The philosophy is usually developed by the Human Resources Department in collaboration with the executive team, and I'm just thinking out loud here, but adopted by the,
Actually, can I add one thing that you said earlier? If you want to talk about in collaboration with the executive team, comma, and input from key stakeholders. We can capture.
yeah, I was gonna say that at the end, but maybe it makes more sense to do it in
Kind of in order of
chronological
how it
order.
happens, right?
Okay, so philosophy developed the Human Resource Department in collaboration with the executive team and interested stakeholders
And with input from key stakeholders.
and with input from key stakeholders. Can I add and the public?
So the public, I would prefer just key stakeholders. And the reason I say that is because there's all kinds of opinions, right? About how comp philosophies, should be developed. At the end of the day, there is both a responsible and accountability issue, with a comp policy. And if you look at San Francisco Unified, you can see where the thing went off the rails, right? They're about to undergo financial supervision exactly because they tried to please too many masters and messed up, and it's more than just their comp philosophy. It's their operational choices. It was a lot of things. The comp philosophy belongs to the stakeholders. It doesn't belong to the public. It belongs to the people who run the operation.
Well, again, respectfully, I feel that the entire thing belongs to the public.
The agency belongs to the public, and the agency has an obligation of transparency in its thinking to the public. And if the public doesn't like how the agency is run, the public can vote out the board, or the board can get rid of the superintendent. But, I disagree with the public input part. I think key stakeholders better represents, but as you say, I will defer to the wisdom of my colleague on this one.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Commissioner Roder that one of the stakeholders, I think it should be spelled out, is the public. They should have a say in how their money's being spent. And again, this is just a recommendation, so
And it's just input.
It's
I mean, the public can come in at public comment anytime they want at a school board meeting and make any comment and provide any input that they want. This would just be telling the school board, we expect that the public may have
In
some
support of a
input.
transparent process. Okay.
All right, okay. So
You know, I
we'll go
see
with
where you all are headed.
And with input from key stakeholders and the public. And what do we say? And do we say ultimately and adopted by the school board?
I think we end the sentence and the public. Period. The final compensation philosophy must be considered, reviewed, and approved by the school board.
Okay. Fine with me.
Sounds good.
All right, the final. Hey. Come on. Philosophy. Must be. And what is it? Must be considered,
Considered, reviewed, and approved.
considered, reviewed, and approved by the school board. Okay, and now the next paragraph is the one that has the 3 indented bullets. Some key principles include.
Mhm.
They looked fine to me.
They look fine. They look fine to me.
Okay.
I'm good.
And then the last paragraph is the one I think that tries to capture Commissioner Carter's suggestion. And that looks okay. I don't know, Vice Chair Carter, whether you think that captures your thoughts or not.
It captures the spirit of what I wanted to recommend. I really wanted more detail, but I think the detail will come after this this position comes up for recommendation to the board. Then the details will come out. How many hours, FTEs, what do they do?
Oh, yeah.
Who's things like that will come out. So this paragraph looks it looks short, but it's pretty sweet.
Can I ask a question on this one? Only because right now suggesting a new position is wildly unpopular, right? So I am wondering if rather than couch it as a new position, if what we want to say is something along the lines of the commission recommends that the PC team organize its operations such that the PC manages this process internally in the future. They'll hear from us, when is budget time, if we think we can redeploy existing staff to do this work, if we think we need a new position to do this work. I just think right now, pitching it up as a new position is just going to raise everybody's hackles, and we're going to have trouble getting them to wrap their head around the real concept, which is we want to do it in-house.
I believe the comment on the new position is accurate. And once they do the fiscal analysis, they just paid over 200,000 for this budget for this.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a reasonable.
It's I think it's going to pencil out and make a lot of sense. It'll take a lot of burden off of the PC and the district having a full-time or even a part-time FTE. I can even see this being a part-time person doing the research and presenting their findings throughout with the savings to the district over that $300,000 amount, which next.
Right. I mean, it's an analyst
100,000.
position.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking the way to introduce it is to say, we plan to reorganize our operations to look for a way to do this. They'll hear from us in April when it's budget time.
I don't think we should reorganize anything. I think it should be a completely different position. I think that
But within the PC.
within the PC.
Right,
correct.
well, that's reorganizing our operations.
And reorganize, it sounds like we're suggesting that we compensate this person under our current budget.
Oh, I'm not promising that. I would say that if I were promising that, but okay, if that's what you think the implied is. Well, all right, it's a wordsmithing question. I think new position is gonna immediately raise hackles, so I would look for a different way. To
As
say
it
it.
should, as it should. Well, then what do you think?
I agree with both of you. So the answer is, I don't really know.
Mhm.
I sort of wonder, I mean, there's a part of me that often says, if I don't really know what the reaction of the reader is going to be to something, maybe I just shouldn't say it at this time and leave it for, future.
Getting more knowledge about what
Right.
folks think about it.
So that goes along with Commissioner Goldstein's view, I think, somewhat. On the other hand, I also think that ultimately, what we would want to do, if we're going to go this direction, is probably hire somebody to do it. But maybe that's our decision around budget time. So I'm sort of wondering if we should just say, the Personnel Commission believes that the classification and compensation review for BUSD should become an ongoing practice, something like within the Personnel Commission, to make the process more manageable and effective for the classified service, and then just delete that last sentence. In other words, we can't sit here right now and know really what we're going to do. Whether we're going to hire, we don't know if this is the right time for this anyway. We may have to wait a couple of budget cycles.
I'm all right with language like that.
I think that captures the spirit of what we're trying to convey.
Okay, so it'll be an ongoing practice within the Personnel Commission, and frankly, when it comes to budget time, I mean, this really isn't a decision of the school board. This would ultimately be a decision of the Personnel Commission.
Right.
Whether we want to take on this responsibility and do it, and if we do, how are we going to do it?
Mhm. Well, we already know this is a responsibility we hold. It's
Right.
just more how we want to
Right.
execute.
Right,
Right.
right. Yes, Aaron, please.
So the only thing I would like to comment on that is that we have had tremendous pushback when we have asked for any additional positions. I wouldn't want them to be surprised when we do request for additional support during budget time. If there's some way that we can indicate that it's a possibility that there might be more staffing required. I just know from experience that in the past, when we have asked for additional staffing, we've had a lot of pushback. So giving them the recommendation that this could be a possibility might be a little more transparent.
Mhm.
I think they would understand that from what we, our marked up language. The amount of money, the size of the team. I mean, to the degree our finance department, read the contract and paid much attention to that. We might have a little theater like, oh, we thought you guys were just going to absorb it. But, there's a pretty reasonable discussion that says, so let's really talk about this, 14 months, 6-person team, to do this work. Probably we're not going to absorb that with existing.
I was really open to either way, but I would defer to what I would consider boots on the ground. If Aaron has seen this has been an issue in the past, if it's one way to attack the issue prior. And
It's not our prime issue though, right now, transmitting, the study and asking them, to review and, everything else that we're talking about and do a comp thing. What we're adding on here, I think, is probably the first in a series of communications that, we'll wind up having with the district about doing this. So, I like the idea that we're signaling, there's a better way to do this, and we have some ideas about that. But I think right now that's about all I would do in this transmittal.
I guess I was playing around with, we could be really wishy-washy and say, this may require that a new position be added, just to give them a heads up. But I'm not exactly sure the purpose of doing that precisely.
No. What I would like, the very best possibility would be, and we haven't talked about this yet, but sending this over to the district, I think kind of what should run part and parcel with this is someone, it could be any of us, should be attending a board meeting and ideally speaking to this briefly, just to make sure the public understands that we transmitted it and have the board, kind of hear from us. And if they had questions about this, that's something that we could actually discuss in real time when we make that presentation.
Okay, can we hold on?
Yeah.
Onto
Yeah.
that idea? That's like, okay, what are we gonna do with this thing?
right.
So can we just go ahead and then add within the Personnel Commission and then delete the last sentence?
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. They're gonna get the idea. They're gonna understand we're gonna need more staffing to pull this off.
Okay, I think that we have now completed this markup. One comment I wanted to make was, Denise Diggs-Ray has brought up a couple of times the survey. I think I looked at the entire survey that was included within the materials that Sarah gave us. And I thought that many of the comments made in the survey were very relevant, but I think all of those comments have been made publicly already. I don't think that those comments necessarily would add anything to our report, but I just wanted to address, this survey concept that has come up. So that's my comments on the survey.
Can you remind me, you may not know, I'm kind of looking at Sarah and Aaron and Brian now. The survey went to all of the classified, or it only went to people on the steering committee?
It was only to the members of the steering committee.
So a thought about this, I agree the comments have been made publicly, copiously. I also think it's important that, and I don't know that you really have this information. There have been some inconsistent behaviors during this process, and some of it can be manifested in attendance at steering committee meetings, possibly participation in steering committee meetings. Some of it is actually on the BCCE side, officers at BCC actively encouraging people not to participate. And I'll be frank, I have a real problem with people complaining about the process when we have those two other problems. Okay?
Are you sure that
Yes,
That-
Frank,
that
Frank has
is-
said he chose not to complete the survey and that he encouraged others not to. And I was pretty shocked when I heard it. and we can go back through the records. I wrote it down in my notes. I know I heard it. Okay, and this is really unfortunate. No process is perfect, but to have an officer in the union say this carries additional weight, right? Or, a former officer. I'm not sure if Frank is an officer now.
He is.
But he's prominent in the union. So, I understand there are concerns, and I'm not saying that some of the concerns were not valid. And there's a lot of other stuff that went on in this process for which all parties hold responsibility. What I don't think will help us in this process is airing a bunch of dirty laundry on all sides about this, and I'm speaking frankly and publicly about this because, we've gone back and forth on this and there's been some selective memory on this. And I think it's important to correct the record on that. So I am also inclined not to include the survey, and I want everyone to understand why I am not inclined to include the survey.
So let me chime in here. I'm also of the mind of not including the survey, but I really want to just point out the approach that you took for airing dirty laundry is similar to what you mentioned of the union. I don't think it needs to be said, or because it's an interpretation of what you heard, putting it in public records from the commission sort of validates your belief as if it has more credibility than it may warrant. So I don't think that needed to be in public record. It's part of the public. Every person in the public, union member or not, can come up to and speak to us. And we as a commission decipher that information to make our decisions. But having you put a view or a lens on one person's comment, whether they're in the union or not, I think that puts undue weight on that comment and an undue hue on what we're sending to the district. It doesn't feel as if it may make our comments feel or sound more biased with that comment. And I think those are comments from the public. They could have been made by anyone. They could have been made by a random stranger. I don't think they needed to be repeated by us on the commission. We need to decipher that and make our decisions moving forward. I think that is our charter here. We have comments from every different spectrum, far left, far right, far middle.
And I guess I would say to that end, our actions, I think, reflect that we have heard the comments. See if we can turn the lights back on. Because we've heard from BCCE that they don't want the EHA recommendations for them specifically referred. And we've modified what we've done based on that. So I think we have heard those comments. We've interpreted them, and we've, I think, acted appropriately in consideration of those, and that we've flagged them, to the school board. It's not something that is being hidden.
But publicly chastising a member of the union is unnecessary.
I'm not chastising. I'm reflecting a fact that he provided.
All right. I think my comments have been
Okay,
heard.
yeah, I think we understand the various views. So let's start. I think my thinking would be, before we vote on finalizing this as we've discussed, have one additional opportunity for the stakeholders who are on remotely to make their comments. So with that in mind, I know Denise Dix-Ray did have her hand up previously. She has it now. So Denise, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a few things. I was wondering if the PC could provide clarification in the 8th paragraph where it talks about HR collaborated with the executive team. Who was the executive team? And then also I wanted to mention that because that I sat on the steering committee, I did not receive copies of the survey. So who did the surveys go to? And being clear, if they were supposed to come to the committee members, they should have. And just to finalize this, that what's going on now is reasons that people didn't want to participate. They were saying, well, what's the point? They're going to do what they want to do. They're going to get their people in, get them at reclass, get them a higher pay, and not considered BCCE. So that's the real reason people didn't want to participate in this classification study. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. And Mildred has her hand up too. Go ahead, Mildred.
Good morning again. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak one last time. And I will try to keep it as short as possible. As you know, I was also on the steering committee and we were asked around May, I think it was May, because we hadn't heard back from EH&A from January to fill out the survey so we could know, just so Charlie can just get some feedback on how we felt, because at that time we didn't know how we were going to move forward, being that we hadn't heard anything from them for phase 3 and for phase 4, and we were just kind of left in limbo. So we didn't even know if we were going to try to get them for a violation of the contract or anything. So that's why the survey was done, and then we didn't get the results until this day. So I just wanted to share that. In addition, I find it very concerning, the comment that was made regarding our current president, Mr. Hernandez. At that time, Mr. Hernandez wasn't the president, but he has a right to express how he feels about the class and comp. He's never been a person that supports the class and comp for many reasons. He never encouraged other members to not participate in the class and comp, because we all as a committee actually took union leave for 2 days, from in the morning till in the evening. We all took different shifts to invite members to come and go over phase 1 and phase 2 of their job descriptions, to give us feedback on, their jobs, their job descriptions from what EH&A put out. So we met with them ourselves. We sat with them down in the conference room at the adult school and met with them. So we tried our best to encourage people and talk to employees regarding this. So to make that comment publicly as if we didn't do the best that we can, but we can't force people to do something if they're just not feeling this whole process. And honestly, being a union leader, as well as being on the steering committee, to witness the things that I witnessed, and I tried very carefully, because I want to be careful about the things that I say, and it's been very challenging and it's been very hard. I understand why people feel the way that they feel, and why it was hard for people to just not want to participate, because you hope for the best, you want the best, you want people to have integrity, you want it to be equitable, but that's just not what happened. So, and people have the right they have a right to their feelings, but to say what was just stated by a commissioner, the Personnel Commission is supposed to be for promotion for classified individuals, but definitely not to say negative things about union leaders. It's obvious where you stand for BCCE, because throughout this whole process, I want to word this correctly. The way that your perception towards BCCE hasn't been very pleasant. And the remarks that was made today it's just very concerning, and I'm very bothered by what you said regarding our union president. So I just had to say that, and I hope nothing like that is ever said again, because you have no idea how supportive our union president is to our classified employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mildred. Don't see any more hands up. So now it's time for us to finalize this document, this referral document. We've gone through it in detail. Is there a motion to approve this referral document as modified during this meeting?
I very enthusiastically motion that we refer as it's been modified.
I second.
Moved and seconded, and I agree that passes unanimously. So I think perhaps the last thing we need to talk about is what Commissioner Goldstein did bring up, which is how should this be transmitted? You know, and I'm open for discussion about that. Obviously, it's going to be transmitted by our interim executive secretary in the manner we just discussed. The document, the 4 phases of the study, the timeline, the cheat sheets, all of those items will be one large transmittal in some way, I guess electronically, but I don't exactly know how that is going to get done. But one way or another, it'll be transmitted to the board. So then the question is, do we need to do something else? It was suggested that one of us in some way appear before the board and discuss it. You know, I have no problem with that, but want to see what other people think.
I think it's a great idea that one of us show up. I'm not sure, although I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure I can commit to it. Given Commissioner Goldstein's current and latest comments, I'm not sure if she would be the right person to speak to the district without the rest of us being there. But I would vote for our chair, Izzy, if you were willing to take that on. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's mandatory. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it would benefit us.
Here we go again.
I would support that our chair should represent.
Okay.
I'll also comment, I don't think we would get into the other issues with the school board in a presentation. But, you know, notwithstanding, I'm totally confident that our chair would represent.
So I'd be happy to do that. And I guess I will work with Aaron as to the mechanics. I mean, there's a few things. One is, it all depends whether, I guess it would be either the superintendent or the president of the board wants to have an actual presentation, like a time slot during the meeting to do that. That's one possibility. I'd be fine with that. I'd probably do it with Aaron, it would be my guess. So that's one possibility. I don't actually know if we constitute a committee of the school board. I don't think we are a committee of the school board. School board committees get 5 minutes. Others get 1, 2, 3, whatever the president determines.
There are some committees, I agree, I don't think we are, but some committees choose not to present during certain times. So we may find that, you know, like the SBAC committee or somebody is willing to give us their slot. So that's a good thought.
I don't think it works that way. But we'll see. That's
Okay.
something to discuss with Aaron. And then finally, it can always be done as public comment. It'd be shorter, but it could be
Mhm.
done as public comment. Yes, Aaron?
Yeah, and I believe Assistant Soup Samantha Tobias Espinoza, she planned to take this to the meeting herself, I believe, and she wanted to get something tangible to present. So we might want to coordinate with her as well.
Okay, well, can you do that
I will do.
coordination? I'm, pretty available, so I can, just let me know how it should be done, and I'm willing to do it that way.
Yes, I'll check in with her.
Okay, and needless to say, you'll CC us on the final product here. Okay, anything else on this item that needs to be discussed? Yes, Aaron?
Just briefly in reference to the steering committee survey. It was a survey that went out for the steering committee members. I believe Charlie was going to send it to the results to all of the steering committee, but probably didn't get done. And so I'm going to go ahead and check in with Sarah, and we'll make sure that everybody in the steering committee gets the results.
Good,
for
I think
survey.
that's appropriate. They should see the results. As I said previously, I read the results. The results, the comments that were made were very thoughtful. There weren't that many. I don't think, it wasn't every member of the steering committee that commented, but the ones that did made thoughtful comments. But I think that the comments that they made have been reflected in their comments to the commission publicly in the past. So I don't know that reading the survey is going to create any aha moments. Oh, gee, I didn't know this. That's my personal take on it. Okay, so that brings us to yet another public comment period. Item 6, public comments. No one is in the boardroom, and I don't see any hands up for additional public comment. Going once, oh, there we go. Denise Diggs Ray has her hand up. Please go ahead, Denise.
I just want to thank you, Aaron, for considering sending out the surveys to those of us who didn't receive it. I appreciate you, and thank you to the PC. Again, I'm just wondering what the executive team is that worked with HR. Seems like between HR and their collaboration with the executive team, that the PC wasn't included at all. I know the unions weren't included because Samantha made the comment that where the district is paying for it, we don't have to include you. So hopefully the PC will be more involved when the next comp class study comes along, and it can be defined who the executive team is. I don't know if it's of the PC committee or of the consultants. Thank you.
Okay, this is public comment, so we normally don't respond in detail, but I think Commissioner Goldstein had a general comment to make about that.
I can, yeah, and I'll consider it as public comment. And apologies for not addressing the executive team comment earlier. So generally speaking, the executive team would be the officers of the institution. So for BUSD, this is the superintendent and her senior direct reports, which would include the assistant superintendent for human resources. And the reason the executive team is involved in the class and comp study or compensation decisions or a compensation philosophy is because they are the stewards of the budget. They are accountable and responsible for the budget. And that's the connection in the discussion of the comp philosophy.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldstein. And I think, yes, Mr. Hernandez has his hand up too. Please go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to comment. I was thinking about commenting on this in the last meeting, but I didn't, but I think I should now. Throughout this whole process, our members, BCCE members, they never had a chance to, or never had a platform to come to, I mean, anywhere, to come here, or if it was somewhere else, and talk about their concerns, what the draft of their job descriptions were. And I brought that up many times, and that, you know, Heidi brought up something, and that was in context of what I was saying and what I was saying at the time, why it was an issue. And when our members did try to bring it up at the PC meetings, they were shut down by the previous personnel director. And if you realize, the last meeting was the first meeting that anybody was allowed to say what their concerns was on their job descriptions, to the commissioners here. And I just thought that was kind of strange. We've been, what, 2 years, and there was never a platform for our members to ever bring up any concerns at all. So they either went through officers or emails. I'm not sure. There was different ways, but it was never, they couldn't do it in public. We couldn't do it in as a committee. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. It wasn't done and with Charlie one-on-one. It was always stated that this isn't the place. And I commented on that before, and that was reasons why I made some comments. And at the time, I was not an officer, to be clear, and I am now. And I just want to make that comment. There was never a platform for our members to say why they had issues or concerns with their job descriptions until the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I guess I feel compelled to say one thing about that briefly. One is, I think, a failure of this study, and primarily of the consultant, was the consultant really didn't lead a mechanism and provide a mechanism for resolving conflicts about job descriptions. I wish the consultant had done that. The consultant said that the steering committee was going to do that. I attended one of the steering committee meetings. The people on the steering committee were 100% devoted to this project, but it was obvious to me that was not set up as a platform, as Frank says, for resolving differences of opinion. I do recall myself on many, many occasions saying at the Personnel Commission meetings when this came up, and at other times, that I believe the Personnel Commission stood ready to assist in any way that we could to go through individual job descriptions. And it would be a time-consuming task, but that we were willing to do that, and that we would help where we could help. There might have been job descriptions that we couldn't help, but if there were ones that we could, and for whatever reason, I feel that neither the district nor the unions took us up on that offer. So I think, as Heidi did say, there's a lot of, I don't want to say blame precisely, but there's a lot of failings that could have been, in retrospect, improved, but they weren't. All right. No more hands up. Public comment is closed. That leaves our next meeting, which is our regular meeting on October 23rd at 4:30. And if there's no other business to come before the commission, then we stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Within 2 hours.
How about that?